ultimately, what we're really looking at is a consolidation. The last few weeks have basically been this. What has essentially happened is the Esports World Cup has gone off. I mean, I wouldn't say without a hitch, and if there were any hitches, you wouldn't hear about it in the media, and you certainly wouldn't hear about it from attendees, and you wouldn't hear about it from people working at the event. But obviously, I've got my little birds everywhere, and I've heard some stuff. I'm going to put together a report, kind of a little bit of behind the scenes, and that might be, one of the last articles about esports I do for the rest of the year. But ultimately, what happened was there was this huge furor working with the media. The media have essentially gone out and repeated all of the talking points. I'm talking like your CNN and your Reuters. They were there. They went out there for the opening ceremony. They basically repeated all of the talking points, the life-changing money phraseology that you have to put out there, and all of this other stuff. Meanwhile, one thing, and I suppose we can just start with that. Why not? This happened, and this was one of the requested pieces of content for me to cover when I put out the tweet, basically asking, what do you guys want to talk about when I get back? And this is kind of not a surprise to me, even though I think some people were kind of surprised. But if you go back and listen to the Esports Gospel on the Substack, or you listen to some of my videos from I want to say February, earlier in the year, talking about the Saudi stuff, I've maintained ever since the Saudis decided they wanted to take over esports, they have a very particular perception around the Olympics. And I don't know why. I think the Olympics is blasé. Is that the right word? Passé. It's kind of, I don't think younger generations really care about the Olympics. Like when I was growing up, my mother was a big fan of athletics. I won't make any I won't make any determinations as to why, although, a single mother sat in front of the TV watching all these physically ripped men in leotards, probably some sort of... But there was probably something going on there I was too young to pick up on. But whatever, she was a massive fan of athletics. And when the Olympics came around and the World Championships would come round, we would sit there together, and it was one of the sort of few activities that we would get into together as a little, nuclear family or whatever. And so I grew up, I was used to enjoy watching the sprinting, and, it's on TV and it's free. It's not like football where in the early 90s, you suddenly had to pay for it on Sky or whatever. It was the BBC was using your license fee anyway. So if you had a television, you could watch all of this stuff. The Olympics were truly for everybody. And so for my generation, the Olympics was an event. But I don't think that's true anymore. I really don't. When I talk to younger people, and you've been watching the Olympics, or did you see the sprinting, or do you know? Yeah, they don't really know about any of that. I mean, I kind of feel that there was certainly with sprinting at least, in a post Usain Bolt phenom world, do people really care about it to the same degree? Which isn't to take away anything from the athletes or whatever. I just don't think it's necessarily the big global event that it used to be. But I could be wrong about that. I don't know. I haven't even reviewed the viewing figures. That's just my perception. It doesn't seem to be a big deal. And certainly all of the coverage that I've seen on my timeline, at least, on social media around Paris, that it's been about 50-50, ridiculous controversies. And I am going to wait until to the end of the Olympics, and I'm going to put them all together. But stories I've seen are the satanic opening ceremony. I saw a lot of people getting bent out of shape about that, and yeah, whatever. I obviously covered the boxing nonsense on my Substack. All the people getting poisoned by swimming, getting E. coli for swimming in the River Seine. Don't do that. Like, I don't know why anyone would do that. I was in Paris recently, just a stinking, horrible. Like, I don't know why. I wouldn't. To even stand near it was nauseating. I couldn't imagine having a dunk in it. But there was that guy who like vomited 10 times after swimming. Someone else had to withdraw with getting E. coli after swimming in there. So I've been watching all of that. Then there was a story the other day about someone who'd won a gold medal. That apparently the accommodation in Paris for the Olympians is so shit, they found him sleeping in a park. So I don't know really what's gone on there. But you know my views on Paris, and you know my views on Macron. It's they just shouldn't be allowed to host the Olympics. There we go. That's my takeaway. But we'll abuse the Parisian Olympics in a more sustained fashion on another stream. Anyway, the point being, there's always been this idea of how can we get the youth, as the cool people call them, the Utes. How can we get the Utes into, whatever the fuck it is, whatever failing sport it is? This has essentially been the driving force behind, even projects like E-League, the cable cutters and kids not being as interested in football and basketball and baseball as they once were once upon a time. So it's like, well, if we can have some crossover with the things the kids do like, then maybe we can turn them into fans of this legacy shit we've got over here. And so, that was certainly, I hope I'm not giving the game away. There was a reason why we were at Turner Sports, and there was a reason we were doing crossover with Inside the NBA and stuff like that. But anyway, that's the holy grail. And so for a long time, when it comes to Olympics, they've been, looking around at esports and saying, we'd love to get esports in the Olympics. But the problem is a lot of esports revolve around violence. And when I say violence, I don't mean violence, like obviously it's all abstract, it's all in the digital world, but that is against the Olympian values, isn't it? And so they say things like, well, we could never have Counter-Strike at the Olympics. We've got bloody terrorists in it. And I suppose that might be fair enough, right? Maybe that's not something you want to draw attention to when all the world comes together to, compete and sort of celebrate a shared global community. But it also does seem a bit silly, given that I believe the same Olympic Committee, the IOC, said, but Overwatch is kind of fine. And, we can go back and forth on that particular topic until the end of time. I find it kind of boring. But, for every person who goes, they're just video games, there's a person who says teabagging is sexual assault. So, whatever. Let them fight it out. But anyway, so for a long while, the IOC, the Olympics, they have been very interested in getting the youth, getting esports into there, but it's been difficult because a lot of the big esports are kind of very opaque, or they're not appropriate for all ages, or whatever it might be. And so, as Saudi has increased its position in esports, they have correctly identified that if they control esports and esports goes into the Olympic Committee, then Saudi will be well positioned to essentially dictate what goes in, what doesn't go in, and essentially run it on behalf of the Olympic Committee, which increases their global standing, their ability to obfuscate their terrible regime domestically. And, this is kind of like when we had Saudi Arabia with the head of the UN Human Rights Council. The jokes write themselves. But I said that was the goal. I said back in February, my sources are telling me the total takeover of esports isn't an end to unto itself. It is about being able to get the esports into the Olympics, and then Saudi having more input into the Olympic committees. I don't know why they think that way. Maybe there's something I'm missing. But that was been the goal. And lo and behold, here it is. Once again, put it in the Richard was right column, right months ago. IOC enters a new area with a new era with the creation of Olympic esports games. First games in 2025 will be held, guess where? In Saudi Arabia. And this is the official press release. History was made today when the International Olympic Committee, IOC, decided to create Olympic Esports Games. The first edition will be held in 2025 in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The 142nd IOC session in Paris endorsed the proposal by the IOC Executive Board unanimously. For the organization of the Games, the IOC has partnered with the National Olympic Committee of Saudi Arabia for 12 years, and here we go. This is why we do it, guys. This is what it's all about now. Remember, I have said, and I will show you over the course of this stream, the Esports World Cup, to me, as far as I could tell, I didn't see it getting a lot of organic engagement, right? I didn't see it getting a lot of organic engagement at all. And I think the reason for that is that it just doesn't feel like it's for us. And now, the viewership, by all accounts, was good. I won't disparage esports charts like some of my colleagues did, because obviously they are an official partner as well, so people could argue that they'd be incentivized to fudge the numbers. I know the people who run the site. I'm going to assume they wouldn't do that. It would kind of be maybe self-defeating if it was ever found out, because it would call into validity your whole business model. But I mean, they seem to be quite happy with the viewership across like League and CS and a bunch of other stuff for a new project. But ultimately, for me, it just hasn't generated buzz. And so I don't know who is watching it. I don't know where the numbers are coming from. But when I go, again, onto social media, onto websites, onto forums, I don't see a lot of people really talking about it, talking about the event, talking about the opening ceremony, talking about the spectacle of it all, talking about the games. Just seems to be kind of meh. I mean, the Dota community follow that shit religiously because, the Dota community don't give a shit about sports washing at all. All they want are fucking hats in the games, while simultaneously pretending they don't want hats in the game and they don't want battle passes, but they really, really do. And just big prize pools so they can all say, look at our superior esport. That's all they give a fuck about. It wouldn't matter who funded it. If this was like the 1936 Olympics with Dota 2, as far as I can tell, the Dota community would be just fine with it and go, yeah, what are you going to do? At least there's a tournament on. All I care about is the prize money. Okay, well, fine. So, anyway, I'm going to maintain my opinion and my stance, which is that the Esports World Cup is for the LinkedIn generation, and that the Saudi Arabian entity that is taking all over esports and running it via the mechanism of the PIF. I'm going to say that they're doing it for shit like this, these photo opportunities, this ability to sanitize and make themselves look like, at the cutting edge of all sports and great reformers. And obviously as well, they are diversifying their portfolio, so it's not just oil wealth for the inevitable future when we're beyond oil, whether that's in 15 years, 50 years, or 500 years. Anyway, on we go. Let's read about some of the details. The IOC president, Thomas Bach, said, "This is truly a new era for the IOC. With the confirmation by the IOC session of the creation of the Olympic Esports Games, we are keeping up with the pace of the digital revolution. The esports community represented in our Esports Commission has enthusiastically engaged with this initiative. This is further proof of the attractivity of the Olympic brand and the values it stands for among young people. The NOC of Saudi Arabia will bring great, if not unique, experience in the field of esports to this project. This partnership is based on the Olympic Charter and the Olympic values." Now, what's interesting about the framing there is they have signed this 12-year agreement, and in their statement, they are saying Saudi Arabia will bring great experience and knowledge about the Olympic esports project. But the reality is, why are we saying that they're the experienced ones? Like, spoiler, the Saudi Arabian state just got here in comparative terms to the totality of esports. I would even argue you could look at the Esports World Cup and look at the formats there and just make a compelling argument that they don't really get it yet and that their formats fucking suck, and they certainly did. I mean, obviously, again, we talked about this on... was it Snake and Banter? I can't remember. But at some podcast I did with Thorin. And the format was dreadful from a Counter-Strike perspective. And so the notion, the belief, I like that, the implication that Saudi Arabia are the experienced entities in all of this is patently ridiculous and patently false. And I've seen a lot of criticism, actually, for the bigger events that, while they were deemed a success, obviously, by the shills and the people in the Saudi Arabian orbit, and indeed in the pocket for Saudi Arabia, it seemed to be that actually there were some valid criticisms, and as such, I don't know, framing them as the people that are going to deliver the perfect esports experience just because they happen to work with that mafia of the mediocre that essentially ran ESL into the fucking ground. I don't know. Doesn't feel believable to me. Anyway, it continues. The IOC has been engaging with esports since 2018 in a holistic way. This culminated in the organization of the Olympic Esports Week in Singapore in 2023. As a result, by the way, when they say they've been engaging with esports since 2018 in a holistic way, they mean they continually floated the idea of having some dog shit knockoff version of the Olympics and explored what that might look like and what those tournaments might look like, you know, for what is in, what is out. They actually went through a very curious phase where they seemed to believe that virtual reality was the way forward, and that what people would be doing would be virtual interpretations of the sports that were at the Olympic, just done in video games. To which I would just say, what would be the fucking point in that? It's like it's like when people do the 2K esports league. For me, I had an idea. We talked about doing a Madden tournament back when I was at WSOE. And the thing I always hate about real-life sports games being played as an esport is it's, you know, they pick Arsenal, the other guy picks Barcelona, they play against each other, and everyone picks those teams, and everyone has the same players. There's no variables whatsoever. It comes down just to preference and ultimately skill and understanding of how to use those teams. It's the same in the Madden tournaments. People pick a team, and they use that team throughout the tournament, and generally you will only see a handful of teams and a handful of players, and again, there are no real variables in it. And the same with the 2K League in NBA. What I wanted to do when I was at WSOE was I wanted to get a bunch of Madden players. And I don't know if this has been done before or since, you know, we were talking about it. But I wanted to get a bunch of the top Madden players together and essentially do like a snake draft for the franchise. And so people would have ultimately some sort of currency or some sort of points that they could spend to bid against each other to get the players they want into a squad that would then be uniquely theirs for the rest of the competition. Like a fantasy league, essentially. But then on top of that, what I wanted to do was also sort of have it. So, listen, it's going to be a long tournament. It's going to be a full season. We're going to get this weekly content out. But I also want to put, like, fucking injuries in there and stuff. And then the player that wins is the player that adapted to the challenges, drafted the best team, etc., etc. And so the concept there was you would have a tournament and esports play, but you would also have this kind of drama that would drive the content. Hey, I spent the majority of my points to get fucking Mahomes in. He gets absolutely fucking destroyed by some linebacker in the first game. How do I adapt to that? And so we were going to film it and do all the content around it, you know, get the live reactions when the injuries happen, interviews after the games, and basically run, you know, like 12 weeks of content or whatever it would be. And so I thought that would be really cool, but that's just not how shit goes, you know? That's just not how these sports are played, and I do find them pretty boring as a result. Now, there's only one thing I can imagine that would be more boring than that, and that is, hey, we're the Olympics, we've got real boxing, but here's some fucking nerd doing virtual boxing with a fucking headset on. Now, I'm good, actually. You can miss me with all of that. But the Olympics seem to think virtual reality for a while was going to be, like, super cool and you know, whatever. But so they didn't really engage with esports. They were essentially trying to reinvent the wheel, and people were obviously resistant to that idea because it's patently ridiculous. Like, we've got our own shit. Also, I would just add, the general sentiment among esports aficionados is, We don't need any of these entities. You know, we don't need the Olympics to make esports culturally relevant. They absolutely need us more than we need them. What would they offer in the long run? Like a series of shit tournaments over the course of the next 12 years? One big tournament every 4 years? Like, who cares? Like, if 4 years is long enough for a game to come and go, and it's certainly long enough for a fan to come and go. So, it's ridiculous on its face. I never understood it. But anyway, here we are. And so they go on. As a result of the success of this event, the IOC president asked the IOC Esports Commission at the 141st IOC session in Mumbai, India, in October 2023, to study the creation of the Olympic Esports Games. The commission, under the leadership of IOC member David Lapatient, devised a project which addresses the interest of the esports community while respecting the Olympic values. This is particularly true with regard to the game titles on the program, the promotion of gender equality, and engagement with the young audience, which is embracing esports. HRH Prince Abdulaziz bin Turki Al Faisal, Minister of Sport and President of the Saudi Arabian Olympic and Paralympic Committee, said, thanks to Vision 2030, introduced by His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince and Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, esports in Saudi Arabia already have a rich past. It's been like 2 years, an exciting present and a promising future. And the reason why is the same reason why we are investing across all sports. Our young people. Our commitment to esports is simply a reflection of the world our young people live in, and we now all have the chance to write new Olympic history together, the chance to inspire new dreams and new ambitions for literally millions of athletes around the world. We believe that taking part in the Olympics is the ultimate honour that any athlete can achieve. This is why we are committed to providing the ultimate platform for new heroes to perform and for the Olympic spirit to be shared. Together, we all share the prospect of instilling the Olympic values in new and innovative ways, and we look forward to welcoming the global esports community to the kingdom in 2025. Now, what that means and what form that will take, I don't really know, but it shows how far the rot has spread if you understand that the Olympic values that have been touted and talked about in that press release, the Olympic values are meant to be the Olympic inclusivity for everybody. Everybody gets to compete. It's the premise behind the Paralympics. And that there will always be competition for people, no matter what, traits you have as a person. And yet, obviously, Saudi Arabia, we know, certainly has it in, putting it mildly, for people that also have some traits that they don't find desirable. And I always can tell, because it's not what's said, it's always what is left unsaid. You talk about gender equality, but you absolutely don't talk about the equality of sexuality, trans equality, etc., etc. You don't talk about that stuff, but it's okay to talk about gender equality because MBS has made that a big platform of his transformative approach to the Saudi Arabian state, aka they drive now. We're back to they fucking drive now. It's all roads lead back to they drive now. Ultimately, when you come to sort of breaking down what changes have actually happened at Saudi Arabia, I will say this as well. I've been quite pleased with how far and wide they drive now has spread. I've seen other people posting that like things like they appointed somebody, they appointed a woman to run one of the esports divisions or something, and somebody posted they manage now, which I thought was really funny. It's like, we did good work with they drive now. So anyway, what form it'll take in 2025, I don't know. But what I'm hearing, of course, is that this will all be run by the minions, the Reikarts of this world, on behalf of the Saudi Arabian state. It's essentially the way that they're going to bring more tournaments to Riyadh. You will remember I told you when the takeover happened, the premise was to get more tournaments in Riyadh as often as possible. Not just Riyadh now, they're going to do it in Qiddiya. We're going to talk about that in a moment as well. But I just want to get into, on top of that, some of the ridiculous self-filleting that has gone on. Now, I have a couple of friends that send me the posts that are being made on LinkedIn. I don't use LinkedIn a lot. It's a lot of people tell me, "Oh, you should get on LinkedIn. It really drives engagement, great networking opportunities." A lot of my, even people I like have told me that sort of thing. I guess I'm just so repulsed by the esports industry in general. That doesn't seem a desirable prospect to me. LinkedIn has always struck me as Facebook for twats, and the things I've read haven't done anything to ever challenge that opinion. It's always some dickhead telling a totally fake fucking anecdote about how they're a great mentor to their staff and they've achieved all of this stuff. And people handing out life lessons when it's all fake anyway to begin with, and people replying going, "Yeah, that's brilliant," the little 100 emoji and stuff. And I just find it so tiresome. I can't bring myself to be on there. I think the only time I've ever posted on LinkedIn was to post the How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bag Saudi post on my Substack, because I thought it'd be really funny to see how many people on LinkedIn thought it was real. And worryingly, there were some. But I've got two friends, and they send me screenshots of what is being said by the LinkedIn brigade of esports about the Esports World Cup, one of which has the worst font I've ever seen. So I will apologise to your eyes for what you're about to see. But let's pull up some of these and we can have a little chat about them. So one thing, just to give you kind of an idea about the level of pretentiousness that is being put on display with alarming regularity. So they had this really weird trophy, they were wanking off about the trophy in a way that I've never seen before. There it is. I did apologize in advance. If they actually end up seeing this stream, they'll probably change the font now. So anyway, listen, I almost think this type of font is appropriate for the clownery that goes on in the business, but whatever. This font should just be called Esports Sans or something, but whatever. Right, trophy system talk. Now, for those that don't know, they made a trophy where everyone who attends gets a key, and the key, you break it in it's a fucking Terry's chocolate orange, and then the key, parts of the key go into the trophy when you win. Anyway. And so they were wanking off about this. It was the most amazing thing of all time. I'll just read it to you. Trophy system talk. Well, by the way, Ralph is older than me. And yet he uses too many emojis, man. Please, I only use them ironically, and that's super rare. It's super rare an ironic emoji is even kind of appropriate. But anyway, trophy system talk. When we designed the Esports World Cup, we had the chance to rethink. Building something new is hard, but gives you a unique chance to start from zero. We try to put a few design elements at the heart of the Esports World Cup. We're not just hosting tournaments. We celebrate victory and their heroes, focusing on a connected story and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. The Esports World Cup, after all, is the story of the best club in the world across the best game, and makes the 8 weeks a connected story versus a bunch of content. This unique trophy system is a prime example of this, featuring personalized keys, game trophies, and the totem. I assume the totem is that giant gold fucking dildo they had made, right? Which, basically reminds me of that scene in, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. If you know the scene I'm talking about. If not, watch the film. It's fantastic. Anyway, it adds a complete metagame to competition. Each victory becomes a step towards greatness, marked by the ceremonial breaking of a key. I'm guessing that emoji is a boom. He's gripping it, boom emoji, and the addition of its fragments to the winner's trophy. It creates a visual narrative of the team's journey. Let's look at the detailed breakdown. Each team or individual, depending on the game, comes to EWC with a personalised key that can be split into an inner key and outer frame. Each of the 22 competition winners will place their inner key into the centre of the respective game trophy and add 3 broken inner keys from their opponents to the base of the trophy, creating a personalised award that symbolises the victor's journey. For the winners, their key's outer frame will be placed on the totem, a grand display in Riyadh that acts as a chronicle for the event. At the base of the totem, you'll see the crushed inner keys of defeated competitors encased in resin. I mean, just before I read the end, that sounds like some sort of unholy fusion of Jurassic Park and the fucking chair out of Game of Thrones. What is actually happening here? Defeated teams will be able to keep their keys out of frames, which will be filled with a commemorative token that marks how far they advanced in the tournament. It's a symbol of what happened throughout the Esports World Cup and makes it visible for the global gaming community. And there's handshake emoji, very popular. Though the video below will explain this much better. And thanks to Carmack and team. Now, I mean, look, I'll just say right out the gate, that just sounds fucking retarded. I mean, that just sounds so fucking dumb and overwrought and overproduced and just so needlessly excessive for a trophy. Like, by the way, has anybody said ever in the history of sports ever, the trophies fucking needs to be like a fucking transformer, like fucking Zoids. Like, I want to look at the trophy and be able to see the hero's journey that I went on and all the defeated. No one's ever fucking said that. No one's ever fucking said that in the history of it. Like, sometimes the trophy shit. See the Paris one that Blast made for the Paris Major, which suspiciously enough also it looks like a butt plug. I don't know what I mean, I don't know what's going on. There's obviously a lot of fucking either oversexed or undersexed trophy designers out there. I don't know what's happening among trophy designers around the world. They're either like got fucking insane libidos or they're not getting any, but it's one or the other, because every fucking trophy I'm seeing these days looks like it's just tailor-made for an orifice of some fucking sort. But anyway, it just sounds so stupid, and the replies were, as you'd expect, like, "Yas Queen." Everyone was "Yas Queen" in. Yeah, here you go. Wouter Schleifers, who used to be the guy at Fnatic, don't know what he's doing these days. Probably a Web3 company. That's the hustle. This is brilliant. It adds a complete meta game to competition. This is another example where esports is evolving, having its own identity. Can you rethink the name of EWC2, Ralph Reichart? Yeah, I won't be doing that. As a starter, no more acronyms, I say. That was Wouter's contribution. Very Nair says, "This is the perfect example of great storytelling and the new standard for trophies that actually mean something, if you ask me. Great job to the organisation and designers." Shreyas Pillai says, "I am already loving the symbolic trash talking that this encourages along, and the spirit of competitiveness that it brings in, giving a rise to fresh in-game rivalries and events like El Clasico in soccer." I don't know how the trophy, being a fucking transformer, achieves that, but fair enough. Saeed Sharaf, who is CEO at Esports Middle East, describes himself as a visionary investor, says, "Brilliant concept. A lot of content can be made out of this, and I believe the model can be followed by other TOs and events." GG. For those that don't know, in the world of esports, GG, that's good game. That's how you know if someone's real. Anyway, we'll move on. This one was just funny. This was Ralph Reichart doing an interview, and somebody posted it. And he said, 4 months ago, during an interview, Ralph Reichart, CEO of the Esports World Cup Foundation, told me that esports will have the same opportunities as traditional sports, and the Saudi Arabia Esports World Cup will draw attention to the kingdom and the region. Today, we see that his prediction was spot on. Congratulations, Ralph, on your accurate foresight in the growing success of esports. I mean, can we just take a moment to even assess the very nature of this prediction? Let's see. Richard Lewis telling you in February Saudi Arabia will run esports for the Olympic Committee, and then it being announced in like late July. That's a pretty good prediction. I might even have said it earlier. I'm just going with February to make it look like I am immortal and not Nostradamus, a.k.a. Quasimodo. He's got the brains of I've got the brains of Nostradamus, but I do look like Quasimodo. But here's what he predicted. Esports will have the same opportunities in traditional sports, and the Saudi Arabia Esports World Cup will draw attention to the kingdom and the region. That's not a prediction when you've already took money and are working for the Saudi Arabian government as they pump millions into esports for the purposes of attention to the region. That's like, you're not even predicting anything. You are just describing what is happening. And not only what is happening as an observer, what is happening as in you are the one driving it and making it happen. That's not a fucking prediction. That's ridiculous. That's me saying, oh, the water's about to leave the bottle and go into my mouth, I think. Holy shit, I've done it again. I'm a genius. Mental. Anyway, I just noticed this in the replies, right? Appreciated. I think what I said in part 2 is super important, and I want to emphasize it's the biggest because it brings together the different communities, so it's growing the pie. Oh, there you go, right? There you go. It's bringing together the different communities. Not all the communities, of course. Quite notably, some communities not welcome, not being brought together, and not included in the pie that you're growing. By the way, let's talk about growing the pie, one of my favorite subjects, delicious pies. Growing the pie. This is something the mafia of the mediocre, the Reikarts of this world, they have used this fucking phrase over and over and over again. Heard it from the likes of Mark Merrill. Heard it from all of the hustlers and grifters that have used esports to line their pockets while running it into the ground to the detriment of the people that truly love it. And they all say the same thing. We are growing the pie. We are growing the pie. I want you to think about what we had before Saudi, what we have with Saudi. Is the pie actually any bigger? And the answer is no. The pie objectively has not grown. I mean, the last few years, I would argue the pie has shrunk. What has happened is the ownership of the pie, the delicious pie that's cooling on the windowsill, like in a Tom and Jerry cartoon, the pie is now owned almost entirely by one entity, a very authoritarian entity, actually. And if you go and try and get some of that pie, it better be on their terms, because the pie, it ain't for everybody now, and not everyone gets a slice. And people who might want a slice and to take a slice, the assumptive pie that they used to get 2 years ago, they might not find that pie so welcoming anymore, so maybe you just don't get a portion. So I like that. Someone in the chat, the pie is also filled with blood, mind you. In Estonia, they probably do eat blood pie, don't they? Any Estonians in chat got any insight into that? I always get it wrong. There's definitely a country that has that blood soup, and it's just grotesque. If it's not you, Estonia, I apologise. There you go. Finland, of course. The Urukai of fucking Saruman's playground. Yeah, of course you have blood pie. Blood's back on the menu, boys. Perfect. It's fine. I've ate black pudding. What are you going to do? Right, so this is the type of wankery that you are subject to if you're on LinkedIn. And I just thought this was funny more than anything. Steve Aoki is going to be there for the Esports World Cup closing ceremony. With nearly 4 billion streams and over 13 million monthly listeners on Spotify, Aoki is a global music sensation. He has collaborated, is that a microphone, yeah? He has collaborated with renowned artists such as Backstreet Boys, BTS, Linkin Park, and will.i.am, spanning various music genres. Not just a music icon, Aoki is also deeply involved in the gaming world, frequently streaming on Twitch and investing in esports organisation Rogue. Join us for an unforgettable closing weekend featuring the finals of Tekken 8, R1, PUBG, Rocket League, the Esports Awards, the new Global Sport Conference, and the crowning of our first club champion. Oh, you're going to break the keys, Ralph! Are we breaking the keys? No, God, I can't wait. I hope you're streaming the keys while Steve Aoki plays a song that's fucking 10 years out of date, mate. I can't afford the keys. History made, here, now, and forever. Now, this is probably bad. I've seen interviews with Steve Aoki. He seems a very nice guy, a really sweet chap, and I don't think he probably thinks too much or cares too much about geopolitics or whatever. But I do seem to recall when I lived in Vegas, it just always felt like Steve Aoki was playing somewhere. And I've seen him described in music media as the hardest working DJ, which says to me he will just play anywhere, anytime, as long as the money's right. But I'm not going to be too harsh on him. Whatever, fine. You are the soundtrack to the despair of the Saudi LGBT community. Well done. Enjoy cashing that check. But it's just part of a broader thing that I always find funny. Why? Right. Okay, when I go to a sports event, right, the last thing I'm thinking when I'm at a sports event is, oh, I hope there's a fucking DJ at the start or at the end. So, never goes in. Never goes in. Go to the event, watch the game, have a few beers, go home. So I don't know what this is, and I don't know why we do it in esports. I don't know how many times it's going to have to be shit for us to learn that music and esports just shouldn't go together. I'll explain why. What da kids use, not my audience, obviously you're all fucking 50-year-old men masquerading as 30-year-old men. And by the way, I'm aware that might be projection. But in general, you are da kids, right? And the problem is the people running esports are not da kids, right? So what ends up happening is they come along and they go, hey, we've got... Sorry, I'm going to actually do it in that voice from that ridiculous rap battle. It's your boy Eli. It's your boy DJ Khaled. And then he comes, right? And yeah, it's fucking terrible. It's fucking terrible. It's always terrible. The DJ Khaled footage is absolutely fucking diabolically cringeworthy, embarrassing. It's like if Ricky Gervais wasn't poisoned by narcissism and he wrote something that he didn't feel he had to star in. That's what that DJ Khaled episode is. In fact, I'll tell you, I write things in my spare time. I've got episodes of a esports sitcom that I think are fucking laugh out loud hilarious, right? Like, I really do believe this. And do you know what they are? It's just me writing down real things that happened and real quotes from real people. That's all it ever is. And it's right. I think it's riotously funny. The DJ Khaled incident would 100% be an episode. And what was that other one? The one at the League of Legends where it was just like terrible and shit. And everyone was like, this ain't it, Chief. And it's like, well, do you all still like Imagine Dragons, everybody? Nah, I'm good, actually. I'm fucking good. Miss me with that shit. It's just every music event in esports. So this will be a fucking train wreck. Also, I'll just say, right, if you want to like actually party and party hard, as someone that's done a little bit of that, you sort of have to have a free spirit and a lack of inhibition and a self-confidence that you might look stupid. You might look stupid jumping around off your head on pills or whatever, right? But fuck it. I'm going for it. I'm having a good time. That's all that fucking matters. You want to sit there and... real men don't dance, actually. Or you look a bit silly there, sir. Like, fine. But that's not why I'm here. I'm going to get turned. I'm going to turn it up, right? So, esports fans, they're not that person. They're not that person. They have all the inhibitions, all the social factors that would make you... It's just terrible. Anyway, so that's what's been going on LinkedIn. Do send me more of those. I do enjoy them. But this means now we can use that to segue into the Esports Advocate reporting about who is going to speak at that conference, the new global sport conference, and these names are going to really surprise you. There it is, the future of fandom in Riyadh 2024, part of the Esports World Cup, the new global sport. And so, guess who's going to be talking there? This year's theme is the future of fandom and promises to explore the evolving dynamics of fan engagement, according to the press release. In October at last year's conference, the Esports World Cup Foundation and the Esports World Cup were revealed, and many of the participants and attendees ended up cutting deals to take part in the 8-week esports competition and gaming festival that is happening now in Riyadh, and is currently in its 4th week. The groundwork was also laid for the Esports World Cup Club Support Program, which incentivized partner teams to sign new rosters and earn extra financial incentives by promoting the event on social media and streaming platforms. This year's speakers, confirmed on Tuesday, include the Saudi Esports Federation Chairman HRH Prince Faisal bin Bandar bin Sultan, the Esports World Cup Foundation CEO Ralph Reichart, World Chess Champion Magnus Carlsen, Sony Executive Deputy President and CSO Toshimoto Mitomo, Nico Partners CEO Lisa Hansen, and Andreessen Horowitz attorney and general partner Andrew Chen, managing partner of Principal Venture Partners and trustee of the Asian Art Museum Foundation of San Francisco, Dr. Song Yi Yoon, Access Industries founder and DAZN owner Sir Leonard Blavatnik, sim racing and motorsports driver Jan Mardenborough. Now, those names, why are they the names talking about the future of the esports fandom? Can anyone explain it to me? Because, I mean, Ralph sold his soul, but he is OG esports. I'm not a psychopath. I can't deny that. You have to have one of the royal family talk there. It's a Saudi event. That is the purpose. But the rest of them, I'm like, who the fuck are you? Magnus Carlsen, it's kind of interesting. I don't even know in what capacity he's going to be talking because, yes, I obviously know chess. It could technically be an esport. Maybe chess, esports is going to get big and blah, blah, whatever. Everyone plays chess, I guess, in some way. But he's obviously a big Dota fan as well. So is he going to be talking about Dota? Is that what he's there to do? And if so, why him? Surely there's better qualified people you could have had. But I thought it was really interesting because this room will be filled with all of the fucking team owners and shite hawks that are all looking to get more money and more investment. There's going to be obviously people from Riot there. It is just essentially a room of grifters who are all there to try and make money from the Saudi Arabian state while the purse strings are open. And nobody there is fit to talk on the future of the esports fandom. And this, to me, is further proof that actually it is for the LinkedIn class. It isn't for you. It isn't for the endemic esports fan. It's certainly not for me. Those people aren't going to tell me anything about esports I don't already know. They're not going to have any ideas about esports that I fucking value and think, wow, that's really good. I mean, Sony? Really? It's complete nonsense. So, yes, that was one of the things that I observed. Now, there was another big story again. James Fudge over at the Esports Advocate covered this, and this one really went under everyone's radar. People didn't want to talk about this, but he had a great scoop. It was the Qiddiya City Club program details had been unearthed. So let's talk a little bit about what this is. Now, again, I said that when they announced this mega project, Qiddiya, they wanted part of it to be this huge esports center, and they wanted to populate the esports center with the esports orgs that were in the esports World Cup club program, i.e. the ones taking a stipend to enter into the esports World Cup. And this would mean that actually there would be probably a period of time annually when the teams would have to move out and be based in Qiddiya for the purposes of meeting their media obligations, and what they would get in return is a state-of-the-art training facility like the one Complexity had. So, and it isn't just esports, it's got theme parks in there and themed hotels, and it's meant to be like a Disneyland for kind of thing for the younger generation. I think there's going to be a Six Flags there or something. I can't remember. I've seen the breakdown of it. So anyway, James was able to get a comprehensive breakdown of all the things you have to agree to to be part of this. And what's interesting about it, my friends, is it throws up some developments that make you wonder what's going to happen in 2025. And again, from a Valve perspective, I believe this would constitute entanglement and business relationships and exclusivity potentially. And that might mean that they could turn around to some of these teams and say you can't participate in the major cycle anymore. And I can't stress it enough. I wish Valve would just put their foot down on this, because I was told internally that when all of this was being put together, the Esports World Cup club program, the way the Esports World Cup works, all the tournaments that are going to be in Riyadh now, by extension, the Olympics, all part of this was a big fuck you to Valve in a way for what is essentially ESL anyway, because Ralph Reichart, former co-founder of ESL, runs the Esports World Cup. Who do they hire to run the tournaments and promote the tournaments? It's the ESL Face It group, because of course it is. So it was a way for them to retain control over Counter-Strike and other esports that they were already prominently positioned in, and indeed expand into other games they weren't, like League of Legends. Anyway, this is like a really thorough report. I won't read it all, but I will always urge my audience, if you want to know what's going on in esports from the business perspective, make the Esports Advocate one of your daily reads. And if you want to read this in depth, and I strongly urge you do, if you care about this topic, go and give it a click. I know James appreciates it. And remember, he is an independent journalist that runs one of the best publications in the space, the best journalist this year by far in terms of output and quality of work and importance of stories, and he's doing it all on a shoestring, and he's doing it all practically by himself. I think there's like one other guy works there. So the Esports Advocate definitely deserves your support if you care about these topics. Anyway, I'll go to the Qiddiya City Gaming and Esports District, because here he explains what Qiddiya is and what's going to be there for those of you who don't know it. The aim of this part of the project is to create what Qiddiya calls the global epicenter of gaming and esports by building out esports arenas, esports team facilities, boot camp locations, and regional headquarters for international organizations. Qiddiya also wants game development studios, publishers, and consumer brands to make the city their home in Saudi Arabia. One of the things I've also been told behind the scenes is they really want to get offices there for the big games developers. So there's like a point of contact for Riot, a point of contact for Activision Blizzard, etc. They want to have them there, populated offices, so whenever they want to have a talk or a sit down or a big meeting, it can be easily facilitated. And also having a presence in the region creates jobs, and job creation is good for the young population, etc. It goes on. For esports, the play to get organizations to open up shop in the region is to entice them financially, just as the Saudi government did with the Esports World Cup Club Support Program, hence the creation and implementation of the Qiddiya Club Program. The goal of the program is to bring the biggest esports competitions in the world to Saudi Arabia, to build out its local ecosystem, grow local talent, and ultimately serve as an international hub and destination for the biggest organizations and competitions in the world. It also wants to be a regional international hub for game servers and streaming platforms. Ultimately, Qiddiya is working on long-term partnerships with more than 10 tournament organizers and broadcasters, more than 30 esports organizations, more than 25 game studios and publishers, and more than 30 endemic consumer brands, according to information obtained by TEA. While listed as subject to change, Qiddiya will continue its marketing blitz at some of the biggest esports and gaming events in 2024, including the upcoming EVO, which obviously is in the past now, China Joy in Shanghai later this month, IM Cologne and Gamescom in August, PAX West and Tokyo Game Show in September, MPL, MENA, S6 and MPL Indonesia S14, M6 World Championship in Kuala Lumpur and DreamHack Stockholm in November, and EVO International in December. Now, what this sounds like to me is just some sort of corporate dystopian nightmare where esports is this completely hollowed out thing that is being used at an attraction in what is a glorified zoo for gamers. And all of the corporations that have had nothing to do with esports get adjacent to it, fund initiatives, because they believe it's going to drive young people from all over the world to come here because they want to see these things. Meanwhile, the payoff for you, if you're an esports org, is everyone has this insane wet dream, if you're a team owner, about having these state-of-the-art facilities. I don't know why. There's not a lot of literature, there's not a lot of science around performance enhancement for esports competitors, and I would go so far as to say I think the big advancements and the thing that separate elite level teams from teams that want to be elite but can't quite get there, it's not having some scientific machine monitor your fucking reaction time. It's sports psychology, actually, that seems to separate the champions from those that simply aspire to championhood. But anyway, this just sounds so crazy that, you know, it's going to be everything in Qiddiya for maybe 3 to 6 months at a time, maybe longer. And it's just a completely soulless, hollow esports experience designed for convenience and, again, sports washing. When it talks about the program here, from 2025 to 2029, the teams will be eligible for subsidies to pay for administrative staff in Riyadh and Qiddiya City, and from 2025 to 2027, they will be also eligible for subsidies to bring select pro teams to Riyadh for boot camps. There will also be a program to help organizations secure regional sponsorships and to pay for the establishment process in Saudi Arabia. An annual marketing budget of $9.5 million will be available for organizations in the program from 2024 to 2029 as well, and Qiddiya plans a financial awards program for organizations that show an outstanding marketing contribution from 2025 to 2029. So there you have it. For 25 to 29, all those orgs that are in the Qiddiya program are going to have access to $9.5 million to spend a year for the purposes of getting established in the region, running the team, marketing the teams. And that's all coming from the same place. It's all coming from the same pool of money that everything else is done. I know they love making shell companies, and I know they love saying we're a non-profit and all this fucking bullshit. We all know where the money's coming from. It's all from the PIF. It's all entanglement as far as I'm concerned. It's money flowing into multiple entities from one source. So it is wild. And so that's the type of commitment they've got. So the idea that, done it again, the notion that these orgs are going to turn down $9.5 million is crazy. They are going to take this money. They are going to go here, live here, work here, train here. They are going to engage with the media and the broadcasters and do all of this stuff. It's 100% going to happen. Then it continues. The accepted organizations will work with Qiddiya to create an 800 to 1,500 square meters space fully customized to represent the brand. So remember how 100 Thieves took that shit fucking crypto deal so they could be like, look, we got a like super cool branded office space. It's like, I'm a self-facilitating media node and everybody lives here and let's hire hundreds of fucking young interns to sit around on beanbags all fucking day. And then it went bust because of the crypto crash, and it was fucking stupid to begin with. Well, everyone's going to have one of them, and it's going to be funded by the Saudi Arabian state. So awesome. The facilities, which will be near esports venues, will contain areas for fan engagement, retail and commercial activities, content production, scrim rooms, physical training and wellness areas, dining, residential spaces for players and staff, recreational spaces, and administrative offices. In other words, these orgs will have an office, everything they need to run teams, the boot camp space, they'll do media work, sponsorship commitments. It will all be done in this city of Qiddiya, and there will be, in a small region, 25 of these organizations all doing the same thing, having the same thing. Teams will be required to hire executives, a total of 6 for Riyadh, including an MENA head, MENA operations lead, MENA marketing lead, and an MENA community and events manager, while located at STC Square. And now you start to see the rub. If you want this money and this opportunity and these offices, you're going to hire our people. And what you have to understand, and I'm not saying this flippantly, I understand that the world has different cultural beliefs and cultural values all over the place, and things are done differently in different countries, and who am I to say what is right and what is wrong when it comes to matters of business? But conflict of interest just isn't a thing in this region. And transparency isn't a thing in this region. You don't have to disclose anything. You don't have to declare anything. They actually consider doing friendship deals and handshakes in back rooms and having that kind of secret agreement. That's the norm in how they do business out there. So what do you think it does to esports if we have 25 orgs being run by 6 people, all from that world, suddenly coming into esports and all working together in a region where they're across the street from one another? It is a recipe for disaster in terms of conflict of interest issues and dodgy dealings and all sorts of things. That isn't to cast aspersions on anyone from that region. It's, as I said, it is my observation that business is done that way out there. I don't think it makes me bigoted to observe that, although I'm sure someone in the YouTube comments will point that out, that I absolutely am, and I'm just being a Westoid about it all. But we do things very differently, or theoretically we do, and when we don't, there are consequences for having done it that way, but we will wait and see. Anyway, these are the mandatory requirements in order to participate. This is quite a long list of mandatory requirements. So, you must refrain from participating in competing incentive programs between 2024 and 2029. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. I really don't know. It isn't clear, because that could mean, it could very well mean, you saw the new Blast circuit and what they were doing to incentivize people. Does that mean you can't be involved in Blast? Does it, I mean, James is in the chat now. He says it means you can't take money from the Dubai stipends and the kind of incentives they're putting on to have your stuff out there, like there's various like Galaxy Racer, I want to say, and people like that have took money from Dubai to have their offices out there. So I don't know the scope of that, but I do know Ralph Reichart, all of those old school ESL people, all of the mafia and the mediocre that are on the board around this project, they only think about esports in monopolistic terms. And they have, I mean, the history of esports and their involvement in esports is entities trying to have total control of all of esports. They have never been cooperative. They have never been collaborative. It is, we will collaborate, as in we will show you mercy if you are nice to us and don't ever fuck with our business. But otherwise, if you're not on board with that, we will absolutely fuck you in every way possible. And ESL and under Ralph Reichart, it came from the top down. He was the cultural impetus for that. So it for me could have the scope where they turn around and go, look, You got to start being exclusive with the Esports World Cup and Qiddiya programs. You can't do it in any other region or be with any other esports operator. You need to make a decision. After all, we're giving you $9.5 million and an office building. What are the other guys giving you? So, keep that in mind. Next, you must establish a legal business entity in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia by the first half of 2025. This is a nightmare. This is an absolute nightmare for transparency in esports because no one will be able to obtain those records. You will not know who is putting the money into them, who is investing, who owns shares. That all of that will be obfuscated. And I would probably wager that's one of the reasons for doing it. But of course, the biggest is by having a registered entity in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, then you are obviously in their economic web. So I'm sure it'll come with a bunch of tax breaks and everything else, but that is pretty wild. Then you must generate year-on-year revenues locally between 2025 and 29. So this means you have to have a revenue stream in the region, likely from the merchandising, the sponsorships, and all that other stuff. You must contribute to Qiddiya's development of esports academy offerings. That seems a little bit vague and nebulous, but I imagine one of the other aspects of this is probably people are going to have to take on academies. Oh, and I do wonder what stipulations will be put on that. Will it be that you've got to have an academy team, but all the players have to come from Saudi Arabia? Most likely. They have to be residents. So you must employ 6 administrative full-time employees for STC Square by the first half of 2025. You must scale the team to 12 administrative full-time employees based in Qiddiya at launch. You must host professional esports teams regularly at the STC Square. So this means if you're an esports org and you do this deal and you have this office there, you are obliged contractually to cycle your teams on all the roster of players you have to this region over and over and over and over again for the purposes of media work, fan experience, all this other stuff. Which it's at odds with what all these owners said. The owners always said we never force our players to travel. That doesn't sit very well alongside we're entering into a contract where we are contractually obliged to send our teams to this region. You must permanently relocate one professional esports team to Qiddiya City by 2028, between 2028 and 2029. So one team by 2028 just has to live in Qiddiya if you play for one of these orgs. You just got to live there. It doesn't stipulate what team, but, and orgs are MGOs. They have, a bunch of them. But imagine being the team that fucking draws the short straw. You might not want to live in Qiddiya for a fucking year or two. You must sign a local team with Saudi Arabian nationality by 2026, the first half of 2026. So now every org that does business with this, they have to find a team in a game, a Saudi Arabian team, and have them on the roster. Now, likely, because all of the big games are going to be already covered, they're going to have to pick up a Saudi Arabian division of a game they already have represented. And we're right back to conflict of interest. I mean, I couldn't help but notice it wasn't big enough to even talk about in an independent story. I couldn't help but notice we were back to Sinners and Sinners Academy or whatever it was, playing each other in a for-money tournament, and people pointing it out going, wait, didn't we explicitly forbid this back in 2016? And then somebody replied with going, it would only be a problem if there was match fixing, but if we didn't have academy teams, then the Czech scene would be dead. And it's like, guys, am I supposed to believe no one has ever fixed a match in the Czech Republic? Is that where we're at now? Okay, all right, cool. Then you must establish an official SOME channel in the Arabic language. You must contribute to Qadia's content production on-site and remote. You must support Qadia with physical brand activations every year. You must create marketing to promote the Qadia and Qadia Club program. Promote the Qadia Club program on the STC Play SOME platform. Allow Qadia to use your brand in marketing. Bring your club management to STC Square annually and arrange a minimum of 2 weeks of community events at the STC Square annually. So essentially, what all of these orgs are going to be agreeing to is going to be, we are now a content creation team and a Saudi Arabian talent incubator first and foremost than a global esports team. You have to be out here for the purposes of marketing this mega city project. You have to be out here for the purposes of putting content on the broadcasting, providing experience to the visitors, the fans that are paid money to be here and staying in the nearby hotels. This is like such an insane Faustian bargain. And I don't think it's a guarantee everyone in the club support program is going to agree to it. It says here that the potential partnered esports organizations, and we assume those already in the Esports World Cup club support program. I imagine a few of these won't go along for the full ride with Qadea, but all of the teams all of the orgs rather that do, it's gonna be absolutely ridiculous. Like what it'll do to them in terms of their international prospects. Like, yes, you might have solved the financial problems, but you have opened up another bunch of commitments that are going to act as distractions and diversions from the pursuit of excellence. And I can't stress it enough. You will be essentially owned by the Saudi Arabian state. And when they say we get to use your branding, well, let's hope they don't use it for anything crazy. It also might be a bit of a fool's errand. Just prior to this story, it was announced that the Saudi government was tightening its belt on some of the mega projects. This was reporting that was in Bloomberg. Again, I'm just sticking with the Esports Advocate for now. But you can see Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is leading a government committee that is working on what's being described as a sweeping review of mega projects with plans to cut billions of dollars out of current budgets from projects such as the megacity Neom, Qadea Coast, the unannounced tourism and entertainment project in Jeddah, and plans to launch a new airline in the area, according to the report. Sources tell Bloomberg that these cuts are a reaction to a number of economic factors facing the kingdom, including lower than anticipated oil prices, a lack of investment from foreign entities, at least according to what was expected, and a predicted national budget deficit for the next 3 years. This news isn't particularly shocking, as the government said in December, after reviewing its ability to finance its commitments without hurting its credit rating, that it planned to accelerate some projects and put others on hold, with Riyadh taking priority over other projects such as Neom. And if you remember, if you don't know what Neom is, if you remember, we did have that weird moment where everyone said, no, esports isn't going to be taken over by the Saudis. Actually, we put our foot down. Announcing a Neom sponsorship in Pride Month is absolutely outrageous. We're not going to tolerate it. And then Saudi Arabia said, well, what if we just bought all your shit? And then everyone went, oh, can I work the events? So, but anyway, Neom is just a fucking long line, and it's meant to be a city that is just in a line, and everything's modular and high, and you go along a high-speed rail from one end to the other in minutes, you know, all magnetically driven to get to whatever district it is you want to go to. It was meant to be this feat of modern engineering, a new way to design cities that was space-conscious. It was going to be futuristic, and a big attraction for tourists as well. Now, it doesn't look like it's going to be any of those things. They are shortening the distance you know, of the line. Like, you know, it just, they keep cutting the distance on it each month, it seems. So I don't even know if that project's ever going to get finished. And what does that mean about in a bigger context about where Qadiyah could be in 2028, 29. I'm not saying it's going to fail. I don't believe it will, or that they would pull out prior to that commitment, but equally they can, and it's Saudi. They do what they want. You don't get to influence them in any way, shape, or form. As soon as you take their money, you are beholden to their whims, their desires, and if they turn around and go, yeah, well, we're sort of pulling the plug on Qadiyah, some of these orgs might find themselves having like relocated teams and management and took on a bunch of hires that they no longer need because Qadiyah is going to be put on hold and not moving forward anymore. So, worth thinking about. Right, there was another aspect of this. I told you on yesterday's stream that I was sort of just like despondent. I was trying to write an article, and the article itself was a long list of all of the people that hadn't posted about Pride in June, but they had done it previously. And so I took all of that, and then I wrote a really long intro, and I just got like 2,000 words in, and it was essentially halfway, and I was going to have to write a load of really boring paragraphs. Like, Cloud9 posted about it in 2022, but didn't after joining the Indian Guild, and it was just, I was boring myself. Like, I'm not saying you would have found it boring. Maybe you would, because it is obvious. We all know. We've just come out of June, the Pride Month. None of these orgs said anything about it. None of these orgs said anything about it that had previously. So anyway, I've got all these links. Now, I just want to show you, I'm just going to post a few just to sort of show you kind of where it was at. So, this is Cloud9. Regular posters about Pride. But it ends in 2022. Did something happen? And it's just so weird. Like, look, at Cloud9, we believe gaming is for everyone. This Pride Month, we've got some initiatives planned to make our community a safer and more inclusive place for our LGBTQIA+. They even do the ridiculous version of it. Fans than ever before. And there it is, the logo with the rainbow. As the month winds down, we're taking some time to reflect on another successful C9 Pride Month. You can see these are like the beginning and the end of Pride. They posted on the first day of June, the 30th of June. Between 21 hours of streaming and our Pride Collection sales, we raised $6,000 for our 6 featured charities. Thank you to everyone that helped us make an impact. Right? This is another one here, the C9 Pride Collection, because obviously you've got to sell merch. You've got to sell merch or you don't actually love gay people. If you can't use gay people's identities and trans people's identities to sell T-shirts and flags and mugs, do you even care? And there it was in 2021 as well, Pride merch, right? Well, where's your Pride merch today, dickhead? Where is it gone? It's not there. So they didn't have anything to say. And obviously, they're in the program. I also did get a tweet from 2019 where, look, you see, love is love. And to prove that love is love, you can comment with a rainbow below and get an exclusive Pride pin at the LCS. Well, where was that initiative this year? Where was it? Just wasn't there, was it? I mean, Fnatic, they post about Pride all the time. They're one of the few esports orgs that have this, right? They have a diversity and inclusion page, right? And look, Fnatic is a long-standing supporter of the LGBT plus gaming community. For example, our 2019 Pride collection saw 100% of proceeds from a one-off apparel drop channeled to London gamers and Stonewall. As an issue, continued support of the LGBT plus participation in esports is emblematic of Fnatic's vision of gaming as a space for all of humanity to connect. They didn't post about it this year. They didn't say anything about it. While simultaneously, Sam Matthews is in my DMs saying they drive now. I mean, this was a bonkers one. I didn't see this coming. Even Furia, the Brazilian org, back in 2021, they posted about Pride. Love is love. Here's a Pride logo. Considering how homophobic the average Brazilian esports fan is to the point they're scared of the number 24. I'm fucking staggered that this even exists. G2 stopped doing it after 2019, to be fair. But, like, remember Carlos? This is something worth preserving for posterity. Remember, everyone's like, oh, Carlos is a bigot and he's always been this way.
And our support goes to the LGBTQ plus community. Just be yourself, embrace who you are, and we love you so very much. Have a great weekend.
I used to like that Carlos. I miss that Carlos. But, you know, this is why when you take everything away from people to the point where they have a psychotic break, you know, it's not good. It's not the best practice. And put it this way. I'll say this. Things Carlos has said online, they're despicable. Don't support them at all. But like Charles Xavier reaching out to Magneto, I still pray for the day Carlos comes back to us and I don't believe he believes the things he's saying. I think he's locked into some sort of quite sad supervillain arc because the esports community, which had every reason to give him a second chance and every reason to try and educate and explain to him and to embrace him, they didn't. Instead, they projected their empty fucking hollow values for which they do not stand onto the project of kicking the ever-loving shit out of him when he was going through a bunch of really profoundly upsetting, deep personal problems. And when you do that to people, yeah, they have a tendency to go a little bit fucking nuts. But anyway, G2, that nothing about Pride. Space Station Gaming, of course, taking the bag. They here they are. Love wins. This was them. I mean, like, again, this is a rally of some sort. There you go. Look at that. That's them. There, Love is winning. Does it win in Saudi Arabia? I don't know. Doesn't seem to. They also organised Pride events. This is all from 2022. Here you go. This is what they promoted. This is Space Station Gaming. This is 2023. They did Pride again. And have a happy and safe Pride Month. 100% of proceeds from our SSG Pride merch, Space Station Gaming merch, goes directly to Encircle Together. And they link to the shop and they sell the merch. This is 2023. Nothing in 2024. Just nothing in 2024. TSM, here you go. It's the big Pride charity drive for Trevor, the Trevor Project charity. This year for Pride 2022, we wanted to go further. That's why we're starting a charity drive for the Trevor Project. The leading national support organisation for the LGBTQIA+ community will match all donations throughout June up to $10,000. Join the cause. Nothing since then. Toronto Defiant, thank you for everyone who participated this year in Toronto's Defiant Community Cup for Pride, and a huge thank you and congratulations to our winning team, Yuki Speed Skypad, for winning and donating $1,000 to the Trevor Project. So again, they ran a Pride event to raise money for the Trevor Project charity, and that was in 2022. These are all their mentions of Pride. Thank you. This is 23, the Pride Cup. Trevor Project, thank you for donating $1,000 back in 23. So they've been doing the Pride all the time. All of a sudden, they're in the Esports World Cup Club program. No Pride in 2024. Nothing to say. Guild in the process of being acquired by another entity after pissing a bunch of money up against the wall. Over the next week and beyond, we'll be sharing what Pride means to us from Guild staff, creators, and players. And here it is. At Guild, we believe that the games industry needs to remember the importance of the LGBTQIA+ community all year round. We've asked some of our players, creators, and staff to share what Pride Month means to them. This is only the beginning. Turned out it was actually the end. No mention of Pride since. Guild is marking our continued commitment to providing a safe and welcoming community for everyone. Guild loves all. Didn't have huge expectations for Gen G. But there you go. In 2019, they were quite big on Pride. Nothing since. T1 also big on Pride in 2021. Here you go. You can see all the posts about Pride, but nothing since. Team Vitality. 2022, this is the beginning of the Pride Month, and we at Vitality would like to reaffirm our commitment to standing in solidarity with LGBTQ+ individuals. This is the right time to acknowledge that people are still discriminated for their gender identity and sexual orientation. Now they're in the Esports Club Cup program, and now they haven't got anything to say about it. Haven't said anything about it for 2 years. Isn't that weird? And on and on and on and on it goes. It's just kind of crazy that all of this just went away around about the same time. Well, either when people were cutting corners on content because of the pandemic, sure, or as soon as Saudi and the Middle East started having a bigger presence in the space. And it's just depressing. It's just fucking sad. It's just sad. Really is pathetic that all of these people lost their tongues in 2024. Not literally. Don't worry. That comes later. Enjoy your new business partners, though, guys. Your wonderful, humane, caring business partners. Right, where do we go next? Still on the Saudi train. So much to talk about. We can segue into a story from yesterday, which I thought was interesting, and it's tangentially linked. Falcons. Remember, Let's Go Bird team. We love them. It's kind of interesting that this occurred kind of where we're at with the Esports World Cup and Riot and the partnership there, and Valorant is going to be included in the Esports World Cup at some point, and then you end up with this. So they've got rid of their VCT EMEA Ascension roster. Saudi Arabia-based esports organization Team Falcons announced on Monday that it has officially exited the Valorant Champions Tour EMEA Ascension ahead of the start of the season later this month. In an announcement published on X and reposted by the official VCT EMEA account, the organization said that it was stepping away from the league by officially releasing its roster and allowing them to play under their own name. While there has been some speculation on the reasoning behind this move on Monday, the exit was a decision made by Team Falcons and not compelled by Riot Games, according to sources we spoke to on Background. The organization said in part on Tuesday, "We have taken the difficult decision today to release our Valorant players from their contract as they enter the Ascension tournament. They will remain as a team and compete together in the event under their own name. We want to thank the fans for all the support for the team, and we wish the players the best moving forward." The reporting from Sheep Esports in July suggested Team Falcons was in negotiations with Rogue owners Infinite Reality to buy its League of Legends EMEA LEC slot. The same report also suggested that Riot blocked a previous bid to acquire the LEC slot from Astralis in 2023, which was ultimately sold to France-based Carmine Corp for what reason no one knows. TEA asked Riot and Team Falcons about this in July, but both companies declined to comment at the time. In the course of our research, TEA has learned that Riot does in fact have a global esports ecosystem-wide Valorant, League of Legends, TFT, etc. rule in place that requires the disclosure of ownership and also bars teams with direct ties to governments or government-controlled entities from participating in its Tier 1 leagues. And this is another interesting thing. That's always been one of Riot's stipulations. That's always been something Riot drew the line at, which I have always commended them for. They're certainly a lot more hands-on about who can and can't own a team. And while I don't agree with everything Riot do, the vetting to see who's suitable to own a team and trying to minimize conflict of interests and overlaps like that is something that Riot actually does very well. They're way too controlling, but sometimes control is absolutely necessary if you want to have positive outcomes. And so there was a lot of speculation about this as to where and why this happened. It's probably a bit of kidology, if we're being honest about it, that Falcons are turning around and saying, "Oh no, we totally wanted to do this, guys. It's definitely our decision, nothing to do with Riot," but we will certainly see. Now, the reason I bring this up is this doesn't necessarily chime well with the idea of where the Esports World Cup wants to go and be a tournament on their circuit, because it is essential that Falcons participate in that and anything that is partnered thereof. And it's kind of interesting because I think it could lead to a little bit of friction between Riot and the EWC and the Saudi Games Group, and indeed the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia itself. We will see, but I'm not too sure about it. I'm not too sure about it, which way this is going to go. Indeed, Valorant, I don't know what to make of Valorant, kind of where it's at the moment as an esport. It was meant to be the big thing that everyone wanted to get into, and there was like a news story today which makes me wonder about kind of where we're at. Again, it's on Sheep Esports, but it is Alejandro, so I mean he's generally the best thing over there, and so he's put a report out. I love as well that they have a fucking leak. Like, beam me the fuck up, guys, with this. Like, that's why I'm wearing the Star Trek fucking t-shirt. Like, actually beam me up. Leak. Hey guys, it's a leak. Yeah, it's just called breaking news, guys. You don't need to. It's a leak. We're leaking. I'm gonna leak. Like, just get some fucking journalistic standards, guys. Like, please. It's fucking great. Anyway, so Riot will cut the incentive program in 2025 by $400,000 for each VCT team by stopping the content creation program. And I thought this was really interesting because one of the things that was being sold to me was, oh, it's great. You're going to get all this money. It's all going to be paid for by Riot. They're giving a stipend. We wish they were doing this model in League of Legends, actually. This is better. This is the way forward. And this is why people made a beeline to be in Valorant, even though it's not franchised, it's partnered. So you don't actually own the slot as an asset. You can't sell it to new ownership or anything like that. You don't actually own anything. And you will, but the team owners were certainly happy about it and did eat the bugs. Now the money's getting cut. I do have to wonder how they feel about it. But anyway, this is the report. Riot Games is planning a series of changes to the way they distribute money to teams currently competing in the VCT, Valorant's global competitive scene around the world. According to close sources, among these changes, and I hate that as well. Oh god, it makes me what close to what? Sources close to what? You have to specify. Oh, it's okay, man. I'm just gonna fucking take my editor's brain now. According to close sources, among these changes is the complete elimination of the incentive program related to content creation, co-streams, and overall content involving VCT teams. The incentive program encourages teams to create content on various social media platforms and co-streams. So in other words, this was a stipend that they were being given for the promotion of the league. Riot are now saying we don't think it needs any more promotion or whatever it might be, whatever their motivating factors are. So we're going to take that portion of money back because we don't need you to do it anymore. That's a very Riot thing to do, where they give you something and they intimate it's going to last a long time, and then as soon as it becomes inconvenient, they just pull it away and just take it back and say, well, we're not doing that anymore, sorry guys. If teams met certain goals, objectives, and metrics like co-stream viewership, they would receive varying amounts of money based on their impact and achieved goals. This could therefore amount to around $400,000 for each VCT team. If we add approximately $400,000 for each team, it would result in up to $19.2 million less distributed throughout the incentive program, assuming the case all teams had met the objectives and goals of the incentive program. Teams were informed about this potential change for 2025 during the last week of the regular season, meaning some had already approved their long-term budgets based on this income. This is another classic fucking Riot move, by the way. Like, they probably had this idea to do this for months. And what they do is they hold a series of ridiculous discussions about it, where even if people agree, it can't be approved until you fucking run it up the chain of command to some fucking high-level executive that doesn't actually have anything to do with the project. But because Riot is a cult and not a company, you need their approval. You need the pat on the back from one of the fucking figureheads of Riot. And so these things take forever. Meanwhile, You, a partner of Riot Games, you're making business decisions predicated on that money being there, and then the money isn't there. Great. Thanks, Riot. Appreciate that. It's very similar to what Activision Blizzard did. As I said, the classic example there is Heroes of the Storm, where they knew they were going to cut it, and people were begging for feedback. They were saying, look, we're going to re-sign our team if you're still supporting it, but we won't if you're not. Can you let us know? Oh, well, we're still having discussions about that. Meanwhile, they told all their fucking friendly journalists that fucking get their little goodie bags and then write, why Bobby Kotick is misunderstood. Why the latest Hearthstone expansion isn't predatory garbage. Right? And they write that. They all knew. The people having to lease apartments, they would have liked to have known. But nah. You don't get to know, unfortunately. Just our little clique. And so a lot of people fucked themselves up financially because of that shit. And it's entirely likely it's happened here again with Riot. Because it's just what Riot does. The elimination of this $400,000 without notice leaves, therefore, some teams in a somewhat delicate situation. The vast majority of these teams had signed content creators in different jobs related to content creation, such as video and image editors, to multi-year contracts based on the assumption Riot support for content creation would continue as part of the VCT. By the way, I also find it very hard to believe that people are signing multi-year long contracts just as we're getting to the plateau of the esports winter. Don't think that's happening. Also, I know enough about esports contracts to know you can be fired at any time with, like, it's amazing if you even get like 3 months notice period and 3 months back pay. It's generally, we just fire you with a month's notice and go fuck yourself. The contract might have said 3 years, but we can get rid of you at a moment's notice. But yes, you are probably likely to see a ton of layoffs relating to this decision. Now you're going to see a bunch of people going, well, I'm not needed anymore by insert name of your favourite esports organisation here. Here's a portfolio of TikToks I made. I sure hope another esports organisation wants some TikToks. I just moved to LA, haha, and I only have a month's rent left in the bank. I'm living in one of the most expensive cities in the world, chasing the esports dream, but I'm sure another org will hire me. You're going to see lots of that in the coming weeks. Despite the elimination of this $400,000, it is expected that teams will still be required to create content without receiving the financial support for it, although the required minimums are anticipated to be lower than in previous years. In another classic Riot move, we still want you to make all that content that we used to pay you for, but we're not going to pay you for it. But as a concession, we won't punish you if you don't hit the metrics we used to expect. Deal? VCT teams have other streams of income from Riot. In the case of EMEA, which is similar across all 4 VCT regions, teams received around $300,000, depending on the year, league, and other factors. This money was given to all teams simply for participating in the league. In addition to this $300,000, Riot guaranteed another $300,000 to each team related to digital cosmetic sales, such as champion skins, though this is separate from each team's personal skin bundle. So this is the way that it's all done over there in Valorant. Obviously, those skin sale bundles are the big thing with the revenue share. That's been the big thing. It's kind of like, having the stickers in CS. That's where the money is made, and that's why people want to be in the league. This last amount could increase if the sales of these cosmetics are high. In the case of the sale of Champion Skin, global head of Valorant Esports Leo Faria recently confirmed 50% of the sales are divided into 60 parts, with the 44 clubs receiving 1 part each and the 16 qualified clubs receiving an extra part, thus receiving twice as much as the non-qualified teams. With the end of the incentive program, the fixed $300,000 each team gets from digital cosmetic sales is planned to be increased to a fixed $400,000. They got a statement from Riot here. Fans are key. Yep, we still want to gouge you cunts that don't pay for anything. We are hoping one day that the fans, who are totally the key to esports and not one of its many fucking problems, and actually a poisonous element within it. From Sheep Esports, we contacted Riot Games, and they made the following comment: we adjusted the team payment structure. We adjust the team payment structure every year. Going into 2025, we're putting a bigger focus on digital items, since those are performing incredibly well thanks to the generosity of our fans. Also worth noting, Riot get a cut of that, of course. All in all, we expect significant growth in the total amount of money paid to teams by Riot, continuing the growth trajectory from the past 3 years. And that's a little bit disingenuous, isn't it? Because it's not money from Riot. It's money from the fans buying the digital items, Riot taking a cut, and then Riot distributing that as they see fit. According to sources close to VCT teams, see, you did it that time, well done, in various regions, it's still not as specific as I would have liked, but it's better. A large group of these teams are unhappy with these changes, primarily due to the timing and the short notice with which this change was communicated. While they were informed it could be positive for the teams in the long run, many sources close to the teams that believe removing a guaranteed $400,000 for a "we think it will do well" approach is not beneficial. On the other hand, a smaller group of teams with sources close to Sheep Esports believe that the payout at the end of the 2025 season will be somewhat similar to what they will receive in 2024 if the estimates are correct. Now, I don't have strong feelings about what's going on over in Valorant. It's the one esport I don't really watch. I had a bunch of people in my DM saying you should talk about Valorant more. Nah, I'm good actually. I don't think I should. I've watched it. I'll watch the tournaments. I'll watch the big tournaments. It's good to always listen to my old friends like Pansy and Hypark and people like that over there. But it's kind of crazy to me that we're already in a weird position with this esport. It feels like it hasn't actually got going and never really quite took off into the S tier. It still has this reliance on co-streaming. In general, viewership numbers are plateauing or down. We're already changing up the incentivization program and everything else. It's kind of wild. And, I'm very ambivalent about it. I never liked the structure of the season anyway. This feels like there's too big a gap. And yeah, now we're already pulling the plug. We got big brands sort of withdrawing and getting rid of their team. It's interesting. I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen to stop the rot over there.